There are two forms of reality TV, one where circumstances are generally contrived or controlled, the other where circumstances are under no one's control. That's the genre New York Med falls into, as cameras follow gurneys into New York hospitals. Now the one family is crying foul, saying no one got their permission to film the end of a loved one's life.
Join us tonight on the front lines of New York Med.
ABC's New York Med is a dramatic look at daily life inside New York City's Presbyterian Hospital. It's part documentary.
Okay, here's Chris's heart.
And part primetime reality show.
There was a home invasion.
They followed me upstairs.
One came over and put the gun to my head.
I thought he was going to do something terrible to her.
Okay. He saved me.
2 years ago, Anita Chenko happened to be watching when she suddenly recognized one of the patients.
We have been struck by a motor vehicle.
Her late husband, Mark Chenko, had died in Presbyterian's ER a year earlier, after he was hit by a truck while crossing the street. New York Med captured his last moments as doctors tried to save him. Chenko sued, accusing ABC and the hospital of violating her husband's privacy. Both concede they didn't have Chenko's consent, but maintain no privacy violation as he was not identifiable to the public.
Anybody have problems with calling it? No.
ABC also asserts that since New York Med is produced by the news division, it enjoys First Amendment protection.
Delivering that kind of bad news to a family is hands down the hardest thing about our jobs.
Apparently that sensitivity didn't go far enough. I mean, honestly, what a charade. Putting this in the news division for precisely this reason, by the way, knowing that they were, susceptible to lawsuits. This is not a news program. It's an entertainment program, and it should be in the how much music do they float into their newscasts? This thing is full of sound effects and trumped up stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Although if it were moved to the entertainment division, that would not change the First Amendment issues that are involved here. I don't like this kind of stuff. I do want to make a distinction that I'm wondering might come into play on this, because what the courts have consistently ruled is that news publication and broadcasting enjoys enormous First Amendment protections. So the broadcast is probably protected. What doesn't get the same level of protection is news gathering. So it could very well turn out that ABC is found to have violated the privacy of the family.
Because they didn't get the permission to be recorded.
Because they didn't get the permission. So broadcasting it may be okay, but actually gathering it in the first place may get them into trouble.
Well, that's kind of interesting for a couple of reasons, because the court initially said, and they're going to appeal, that that ABC was right, that they're okay, that's fine. Now, what I find particularly interesting is I worked at ABC in those hospital rooms as a health, producer, and I had to get a consent form from everybody in the near vicinity to shoot anything. So I'm a little puzzled about how then now. I mean, and I could get back to the office and someone would say, "Did you get a consent form from blah blah?" Oh, you have to call.
Kelly, the hospitals are in on this. The hospitals are loving this. Their medical staff, their personnel, this doctor in this Chenko case is like a big star. They want their hospital publicized this way, so they must have some waiver system or something. I don't know how it works.
I want to give a little credit here to the reporter. There have been a lot of stories on this from the court standpoint, but Charles Orenstein from ProPublica, who took this story and put it in the context that we're talking about now, did a really terrific job of making this come alive. I mean, talking to the widow was masterful to do that, and it certainly brought that to bear. But, to your point, Emily, it seems like there really is not a firm line between entertainment and news. And you watch that footage, and you could see it appearing in either place, either news or in entertainment. And that's shocking to think about, but it really is true that story could be handled differently. It is amazing to me that there wasn't more care taken to make this anonymous, to make the figure anonymous. I mean, that's just shameful.
It may be legal, but it's definitely not ethical. I mean, how dare they and how dare that hospital invade that family's privacy that way? It's an outrage. No wonder people hate the media so much. Does this show get ratings, Emily?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not really
the
my
first
cup of tea,
iteration
but-
of it did years ago at Johns Hopkins. I don't know what it now.
Yeah, well, I think a boycott is definitely in order. It's just, it's grotesque. Where's your decency? Where's your basic human decency to respect the privacy of that family at the most traumatic moment?
Yeah, the lawsuit is, they're claiming that the ABC is claiming that the lawsuit put the family's name out there.
Right.
Not
because they
not
identified
them.
themselves,
Still,
but they hadn't done.
Family knew.
They knew his voice.
And also,
they did pixelate his face and couldn't tell who he was.
But they knew his voice, and someone else who knew the family member actually also called the widow and said, "Isn't that your husband?"
And she turned it on.
And she turned it on and
She
saw
wasn't
him.
allowed into the ER when they were working on him. She was told she couldn't come in. Didn't they tell her at that time, oh, by the way, there's a camera
No, they
crew in
didn't.
here?
And I want to say this, having been a health producer for many, many years, I have covered some gnarly, really sad situations where people will give you consent because they want someone else to learn from their story or to know about it. So sometimes they won't. But most of the time, if you're doing a story that they feel is really important, they want their loved one in the service of that story if they feel that you've been honest with them. So who knows? They probably could have got the consent.
Well,
I don't know.